Good evening. On behalf of the Parent-Teacher Council of Westfield, welcome to the 2025 Board of Education Candidates Night. My name is Lisa Espina, President of the Parent-Teacher Council of Westfield. I would like to also recognize Mona Purse, the Vice President of the Parent-Teacher Council, who organized this evening. Thank you to the administration and staff of Westfield High School for coordinating and allowing us to utilize the space for this evening's event. Special thanks to Marianne McGann, the Westfield School and Community Coordinator, for her assistance in organizing recording of the event and press releases. And of course, our Superintendent, Dr. Gonzalez, for his unwavering support. Our candidates for the Westfield Board of Education are Robert Bonaccio, Kristen Sonic-Schmeltz, Violetta Watson, and Mary Wickens. Welcome and thank you to them and to all in attendance this evening. Tonight, our moderator, Cynthia Curtis-Budka, is here from the League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan grassroots organization working to protect and expand voting rights and ensure everyone is represented in democracy. I will now turn the floor over to Cynthia. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gary. Good evening, and thank you all for your interest in learning about the candidates for the Westfield Board of Education. I'm here to moderate the forum on behalf of the League of Women Voters, as Ms. Gary indicated. We are a nonpartisan political nonprofit working to empower voters and defend democracy. We were founded 105 years ago to make democracy work by protecting voting rights and encouraging robust participation. Elections and voting are core concerns of the League of Women Voters. Leagues are committed to providing fact-based information about issues and the positions candidates take on those issues to help voters make their own decisions and participate in the electoral process. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes candidates for office or political parties. Any use of the League name or footage from the forum in campaign materials, literature, or advertising of any kind, including but not limited to internet, cable, radio, or television, has not been authorized by the League of Women Voters. As a courtesy to the candidates, would you all please now turn off your cell phones and any other electronic devices. And please, during the forum, refrain from taking photographs or recordings during the forum. In addition, please hold all applause until the conclusion of the forum. Thank you. Tonight, we are here to learn about the candidates who are running for 3 open seats on the Westfield Board of Education. There are 4 candidates for these 3 seats. All have been invited to participate, and all are joining us this evening. And Ms. Gary already introduced them. The 4 candidates in alphabetical order are Mr. Robert Bonaccio, running under the slogan "For Our Families," Ms. Kristen Sonic-Schmeltz, running with the slogan "Excellence in Education," Ms. Violetta Watson, running with the slogan "Putting Kids First," and Ms. Mary Wickens, who is running without a slogan. Please note that while some of the candidates before you are current board members, they come before you as candidates rather than as board members. The views they expressed this evening are their personal views on the issues. The questions for our candidates this evening have been submitted by the public prior to the forum. In order to avoid personal attacks and redundancy, and to ensure that a range of topics are addressed, the questions were screened by both members of the Parent-Teacher Council and myself. In addition, I have added questions to cover topics which did not arise in the public submissions. The format for tonight's program is as follows. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening statement. The order for these statements was determined by a random drawing prior to the forum. Following the opening statements, I will pose the questions to the candidates. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer each question with responses limited to 90 seconds. There will be no rebuttals. Finally, each candidate will offer a 2-minute closing statement. The order for the closing statements was also determined by random drawing. The time will be kept by our 2 timekeepers, Ms. Sharon Steinhorn and Ms. Rita Davis, also from the League of Women Voters. The timekeepers will give candidates a 30-second warning by holding up a yellow card that says 30 seconds. When the candidate's time is finished, the timekeeper will hold up a red card that says, may or may not say stop on it, a red card. When candidates see the sign, they will finish their sentence and stop speaking. I am sure our candidates will all respect the red sign as best possible. And let's begin. Our first opening statement will be given by Ms. Sonia Schmelz.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Torriello Sonic-Schmelz. I'm a current board member up for re-election on April 15th. I want to thank the PTC and the League of Women Voters for co-hosting tonight's Candidates Night, my fellow running mates for your willingness to donate your time to serve on the board, and our community members for joining us tonight. If re-elected, I bring the unique perspective of a Westfield student, teacher, and parent to the board. I grew up in Westfield, attending Tamacos, Edison, and the high school. I hold a bachelor's degree in biology and secondary education from JMU, a master's in biotechnology from the University of Pennsylvania, and important to this position, a master's in educational leadership, also from the University of Pennsylvania. I taught biology at Westfield High School from 2000 to 2006. Some will remember me as Ms. Torriello, and some will remember me as Mrs. Sonic. I'm the proud mother of 2 children, Desiree, who's in 10th grade at the high school, and Grayson, who's in 7th grade at Roosevelt. I'm also the proud aunt of 4 nieces and nephews ranging from 3rd to 11th grade in the Westfield schools. I recognize that tonight we will be addressing certain pressing issues like bringing full-day kindergarten to our town, and for any issue, whether it's in my current term, tonight, or in the future, I always begin by listening first and foremost. Then I collect as much information as possible from all parties involved. And finally, I assess the gathered information with 2 guiding questions. 1, what is best for our students as a whole, and how will this decision affect our budget? I am honored to be on the ballot again and excited for the opportunity to continue to advocate for our students, parents, teachers, and administrators to help create the best learning environment possible for all Westfield learners. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next opening statement will be from Mr. Bonaccio.
I'd like to thank the PTC for hosting this event and the League of Women Voters for moderating. I'd also like to thank the citizens of Westfield for voting me onto the Board of Education 3 years ago. It's been an added honor to serve as board president this year. The theme for my next term on the board can be summed up in 3 words: see it through. And I asked Westfield to allow me to do just that with another term on the board. Why I'm running is defined by who I am. I'm a parent in the district. All 3 of my kids have been in district since kindergarten. I've served in a number of roles in the community, but I love my time coaching the most. This is the first time in 11 years I won't be walking onto a softball field to coach a great group of girls who I care about like they were my own. The why then for me is simple. I'm not done looking out for these kids or for their families or for all Westfield families. In this term, I'll get to see through the strategic plan and operational improvements we've made together to the district with each of them in mind. Professionally, I'm an attorney by trade, and I have for the past 7 years grown and managed a commercial real estate and development firm. On a day-to-day basis, I evaluate plans, schedules, manage teams, and oversee budgets, timeliness, and financing. This puts me in a unique position to use my professional expertise to lead us through the most significant improvements to our facilities in decades under the referendum. Before deciding to run, I took a look back at the mailers and statements I made as a candidate to see how I did. I'm happy to report that those documents read as completed checklists, not unfulfilled promises. We've spent these last 3 years taking talked about to get it done on the board. I know you have Westfield families, forward-thinking district leadership, and a student, not a gender or politically focused board to thank for how far we've come. Some goals for the next term: continuing the reimagining of our curriculum for future focus, consistent opportunities for students, ensuring the growth of our grounds crew and fields, fostering budgeting process that maximize dollars spent and taxpayer savings, providing more in-district opportunities for our students with special needs, and of course using my expertise to lead the district through referendum projects. Looking forward to our conversation tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Rick.
Hi, everyone.
this evening. I don't have a slogan, but I was just thinking in my head, off the cuff, that I might, because I tell the truth, it would be keeping it real. Right now, I'm a current board member, and I want to thank the Parent-Teacher Council and the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. Plus, I want to thank the other candidates for stepping up and getting involved in our students' education in schools. Just a little about myself. I was born and raised in Westfield, proud class of 1990. I also have 3 children that have been in the school since the beginning. My oldest graduated high school in 2011, and I currently have a senior and a freshman. Staying in other parts of the community where I was involved, I volunteered as a softball coach for years, Odyssey of the Mind coach, and was a board member for the Girls Softball League of Westfield for 5 years. Job experience-wise includes teaching special education and basic skills at Tobacco School, where I taught from 2000 to 2014. And then 10 years ago, I studied for my cert to be a learning disabilities teacher consultant, and I have been at the Piscataway School District for the past 10 years as a case manager. During my past 3 years on the board, it's been very exciting to see the growth that the board members, the superintendent, the administrators, teachers, and students have made. I'm proud of all the work we've done alongside Dr. Gonzalez to increase community engagement, communication, new programs and electives, retain our superior staff, and offer options for our children's future. As board members, we're responsible for holding the school district accountable for its performance and ensuring that it's meeting the needs of students and all of the students in the community, not just one sector. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Watson.
Hi, I'm Violetta Watson. I'm the candidate that's not currently on the board, so this is kind of new to me. I've called Westfield home since 2017, and I have 2 boys in public school, currently at Edison, and previously at McKinley, Lincoln, and before that, for one of them, Temple Emmanuel's kindergarten and preschool programs. I've been a leader in the Westfield Special Education community for the past 8 years, and now have served as co-chair of the Westfield Special Education Committee for the past 5 years. As co-chair, I've worked closely with parents and administrators to support, educate, and create community for parents of kids with special needs, and to provide input to our district leadership on these parents' behalf. Professionally, I'm a technology attorney with 20 years of negotiation and litigation experience in various complex commercial matters. I'm a graduate of Columbia Law and Rutgers University, and I currently work at Google, where I specialize in enterprise technology transactions and AI, or artificial intelligence. I'm professionally trained not only to dissect, understand, draft, and negotiate complex commercial and technology agreements, but also to understand the legal and practical implications of AI and best practices around creating policies for it. In my spare time, I'm an active member of Temple Emmanuel, and I'm learning to play the piano, a lifelong dream, with my son. Ultimately, I'm running for the Board of Ed for one reason: to make a difference in my community. I believe that I can make a difference by bringing my experience, my skill set, and my values to the Board of Ed, to make impactful, informed, and insightful decisions that put our kids first.
Thank you all. We will now turn to questions. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond. Let's begin with a broad one. What do you see as the primary purpose of the Board of Education? And we'll start with Mr. Bonaccio.
The primary purpose of the Board of Education is to ensure that we have a well-run district. That's made very clear to us as board members. To do that, yes, we can read through policies, but we have to do really a couple of things. First is to be out in listening to our community. If we're not listening to what's going on in the community, that's students, that's parents, and the rest, there's no way we're going to be able to handle the oversight function the right way. Right? We have to take those messages and act as a conduit from folks in the community so they can alert us to what's going on. We have a district administration that has basically a city's worth of jobs to do, from managing facilities to handling people to handling staffing. If we're not talking about what we see, and if we're not bringing the concerns of the community to our district administration, then we're just not doing our jobs. Second part of what we do is helping to formulate policy. And we have to be a little careful about what that means, right? Formulating policy means that we are, and this is in a code of ethics that guides us really well, it means that we are working very hard to formulate and implement standards set by the state, the educational standards and the expectations of the community. That's what we need to spend most of our time doing, and ensuring that when push comes to shove, our kids have the best possible educational experience out there.
Thank you. Ms. Wickens.
Okay, thank you. For me, being on a school board means that we are responsible for the well-run and infrastructure of looking at what our administrators and our superintendent are doing. So we oversee the superintendent, making sure that it's meeting the needs of all students, and valuing the opinions of all the community members. One of the great parts of board meetings is that there's 2 opportunities for the public to come in and share their concerns, in addition to when they're able to email us all and let us know, what their thoughts are on certain ideas, projects, programs, anything. We also represent, to me, it's also representing different perspectives and concerns of the community, ensuring that the school district reflects the needs and values of the residents. So we're here to represent you. Advocating for student needs and interests, ensuring they have access to the resources and opportunities that they need to be successful adults. My biggest thing is just being open, being able to have a dialogue with people that don't necessarily agree with me. That's the beauty of having 9 members on the board. We don't always agree. We get to hear different perspectives from different constituents. Thank you.
And Ms. Watson.
I believe the Board of Ed's role, as said, is primarily overseeing and holding accountable our administrators in the district. We're the eyes and ears in some ways on the ground for parents, and we know we should know what parents are thinking, what parents are feeling, what kids are feeling and seeing. And it's our job to make sure that our administrators understand these things. It's incumbent on us to likewise ensure that we have smart, efficient, effective policies in place, and also that they're being followed. And making sure that our community concerns are being heard and being addressed. To me, that's really essential for Board of Ed members.
Thank you. Ms. Sonic Schmelz.
For me, the primary purpose of the Board of Ed is oversight. We set policy to guide our school and to help us make decisions, to make sure that our community's decisions and actions are in an effort to create learning environments consistent and compliant with our district's values and goals. And in order to do that, not only do we set policy, but we also have to make sure that our superintendent, our main leader in the district, is working towards those same goals. And so those are our 2 primary purposes: 1, to set policy, and 2, to make sure that we're collaborating and constantly communicating with our superintendent, who is the leader and the one one that's administrating our entire district. In addition, we represent our community, and so therefore any concerns that we have, we bring to committee, and there we talk, as Mary recognized, we are a board of 9, so one person doesn't make a decision, but if we hear a concern, we bring that to committee. We work in groups of 4, and then if that committee decides this is something that needs to be brought to the administration for review, that's when it goes further back to the committee. And that's how I see the board working. Thank you.
Thank you all. We now have a series of questions on education. We'll begin with Ms. Watson. In your opinion, how can the board stay focused on student achievement?
I think it's important for the board to be apprised of what other districts are doing in terms of any kind of testing and the benefits and detriments of those tests, and to make sure that whatever it is that we put in place makes sense for our district and for our kids. I think it's important to assess these things using experts in the field who have valid recommendations to bring to the table. So obviously, testing kids, but not over-testing, testing in meaningful, smart ways. Additionally, with curriculum, evolving curriculum, making sure that, we're on top of the demands of, what our kids need. I think the administration's, been doing a great job in moving us forward toward that with block scheduling and, reassessment of curriculum. And I think it's a great step forward, and I would love to be a part of thinking through creative and smart ways to continue that.
Thank you. Ms. Sonic-Schmelz.
The best way for the board to stay focused on student achievement, in my opinion, is to create a strategic plan and then to stick to that strategic plan so that that plan outlines exactly what our goals are as a district, and then everybody that's part of that district, the parents, the teachers, the students, and the administrators all have shared goals in mind, and that helps us move us forward. And so we do have a strategic plan, and goal number 1 is that portion where we're focused on curriculum and deepening the learning for all students. And within that goal, we are developing new curriculum, and the best part about that is, like, when I was a teacher here, we really received no guidance. You could go in any order. You didn't receive lesson plans, any kind of help besides whatever your mentor teacher offered you. And now Westfield is creating new curriculum that is going to be extremely supportive for their new teachers and for their existing teachers, and everybody is working as a team. And so I would say the best way for the board to stay focused on student achievement is to make sure that we have a strategic plan that keeps the entire district on the same track.
Thank you. Mr. Bonaccio.
So one of the best things I hear when I'm out and about, and I think that's part of the board member's role, is to get out in the community and listen a lot, is from our very most recent alumni, who are students. They come back from college around Thanksgiving and they say, this is nowhere near as hard as I thought it was going to be, right? And that's because of the work that we're doing here at the Westfield schools. We're preparing them for over and above what they're seeing out in colleges and universities. And that's why student achievement has to be an important focus, right? We're having success, but we've got to sustain that success, right? We can't just live off that reputation. So a couple of ways we're doing this. So we have a curriculum committee that's focused on some significant rewrites to our curriculum, making sure that it is imaginative, that it's future focused, that we have opportunities for students to earn credits while they're here and to get true professional experience, and to make sure that it's consistent and accessible for all students. Right? We hear too many stories of this is going on with one teacher, that's going on with another, this is going on in one school, that's going on in another. Right? So we put programs in place to get all of that aligned. Second part of this is being data-driven. We've invested a significant amount of funds in our budget over the last 2 years on data and analysis for not just testing students, but assessing them and evaluating them so that teachers now can get that data and start by giving real individualized help and instruction to some of our students. With all that tied to set and very, very specific goals, we ensure student achievement stays consistent, and we get more alumni coming back saying those exact same things.
Thank you. And Ms. Wickens.
Thank you. Rob had already mentioned the SIP committee, which is the curriculum and instruction committee that we have in the development of the board. So staying focused on achievement, they do that. They meet every month. They're constantly in focus on state standards, and if we're adhering to those state standards, I won't go back into the data because Rob has already touched on it, Violetta also, but I do want to focus on the fact that not only are our students prepared for college, but our students that may have special needs, we also bring to them a deeper learning and engagement for them, because some of that testing and a lot of those programs are focused in that one particular area. So we're not just focused on the average Westfield student. The curriculum committee is also focused on how can we best get our most struggling learners to succeed as high as they can. How can we get ESL students to learn as best they can? How can we improve G&T and get to their highest potential? So staying focused on achievement, they work in all of those areas. I don't know how they do it because it's amazing. There's so many different populations within our school. And I also think the block scheduling is a great step forward for deeper learning and engagement with a longer amount of time with your teacher. There's improved teachers and student contact that way.
Thank you. What emerging issues or academic disciplines, if any, should be addressed in our academic program and offerings? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, say that again now.
Yes. What emerging issues or academic disciplines, if any, should be addressed in our academic program and offerings? And I can offer examples if you wish, but I thought it was better not to. So we'll start with Ms. Wickens. The questioner had a list of examples, but I thought it was better to give it to you to fill in.
Certainly, the biggest emerging issues, I think, with our kids, that generation, is technology. And I know that our schools have been working hard and researching and spending a lot of money on different things. I know that Roosevelt has something called a Fab Lab, which is very technology-based. A lot of kids go on and are interested in careers such as that. So I think that's one important focus I would like us to continue building on at all of the levels. The other thing I would suggest is just we're starting to build more of being more inclusive of our special needs population. I'm very special needs focused. Sorry, that's my position, my job. So bringing them in and being into a more inclusive environment, being with their peers, creating programs where they can stay in district so that they're with the community and that they are succeeding alongside of the other students in their neighborhood.
Thank you. Ms. Watson.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
What emerging issues or academic disciplines, if any, should be addressed in our academic program and offerings?
So as AI is becoming an integral part of our society and our lives, I think it's important to understand that while it's key to create policies around responsible and safe responsible and safe use of AI, it's also important to understand that our kids are going to be expected to become AI prompters, just like 20 years ago there were computer coders. So I'd agree with Ms. Wickens that, technology is key, and in those technology, I'd be an asset to the board in that expertise and helping to craft policies and potential curriculum around that. I know it's not an academic discipline, but I'd also like to touch on special needs, say, in terms of any kind of classrooms. I think we do also need more consistency in grades in terms of the types of special needs offerings that there are. For instance, resource rooms for science and social studies at the intermediate level don't exist right now, smaller classrooms, and it would be great to see that happen too.
Thank you. Ms. Sonic Schmelz.
Okay, this is a fun one for me because I love curriculum as a teacher. Probably my number one would be the development of a student internship program where we build connections with our community and we work with local businesses. And that actually goes directly with our strategic plan. Goal number 4 is to deepen our relationship with the community. So that's definitely my number one. But also, Rob and I often talk about music engineering and stage design. Our program is amazing for our musicals and our shows, our plays, and we would love to see something like our TV studio, if you've ever seen that, something similar for our stage designers. And then another one that I think would be amazing that has come up is possibly including sign language into our language offerings. I think that would be pretty cool for our students if they're not a foreign language, if they're not super good at foreign languages, it's another option. And then of course, I agree, we definitely need to address social media and AI. Similar to Violetta, I actually think it's really important to recognize the benefits of AI and how they can incorporate it into their lives in positive ways. And so in order to do that, we would need to offer professional development to our teachers. So not just focus on the negatives, but focus on the positives.
Thank you. And Mr. Bonaccio.
So at the risk of sounding repetitive, one of the biggest emerging issues, and that's clear from all the data and analysis we're doing on the board right now, is technology related, but to take a little bit of a different spin on that. One of the courses that we're starting to institute, it should be next year, in our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, are online and social media etiquette courses. And I don't just mean how to handle yourself properly online. What I'm looking at is writing, right? We have students who are adept at texting, but if you ask them to write an email to their teachers, they freak out. What do I do? How do I write it? What do I say? How do I communicate, right? That can't be, right? The major communication that we're going to be having is through emails and through this online work. So we already have some courses in shape for that. And with some of the changes to our scheduling that we'll see now at the intermediate schools, we're going to have more opportunities to do that. Other emerging issues, which I see a lot at the high school in particular, are more courses that are professionally focused. Right? We have students who are interested in food science. We have students who are interested in child rearing and development. And we need to make sure that we're not only offering those courses, but we have the teachers for them. Final thing for me, out of a number of lists, is courses that work through globalization. I had the opportunity to attend the Chinese American Association's Chinese New Year celebration, and I had a young man with me who was helping to translate. He talked to me all about that he knew about his culture, but we weren't really getting that blended into our curriculum as well as we could have, into just regular English and writing. So I'd like to see us try to focus that a little bit more as well.
Thank you all. Next, what do you believe are the best criteria for evaluating academic programs? And we'll begin with Ms. Sonic Schmelz. What are the best criteria for evaluating educational programs?
Think about this one. There's so many different ways to evaluate curriculum, but I think that the most important would be to go back to our mission statement and to think what our goal is as a community, and that is to create curious, well-rounded, civilly engaged, intelligent students who can make well-thought-out decisions. And so ultimately, if our curriculum is serving that purpose, then we've done well. So not necessarily how many kids are going to college or what Ivy League, but are they out in the world, either in college or in the workforce or in the military, being productive, active citizens? And if the answer to that is yes, then we've done well with our curriculum. And if we find holes and we find areas where our students are not doing well, we need to go back and reevaluate and figure out what's missing in our curriculum. And the way that we do that would be, once again, to deepen our community engagement and be able to have that alumni communication so that we have an idea of how our graduates are doing and how they're feeling.
Thank you. Mr. Bonaccio.
So for me, it's a heavy focus on outcomes. Who are we producing and who are we putting out there? And I don't mean just in how much money you're making or what are the high-level titles that you have. It's how are you navigating the world that's out there? Are you able to attend a meeting and express yourself? Are you able to step in without much warning to a group of folks, to a collaborative situation, and hold your own in a meeting and deliver and become part of it? Are you able to develop leadership skills and guide meetings and projects? We do that by building confidence in the learning situation. So yes, I mean, look, the grades, I can't say grades aren't important. Obviously they are. They're a level of evaluation that's that's a bit more uniform. But are we putting people in a position to succeed with those grades? Are we evaluating where people are at and making sure, are you taking the right courses? Are you challenging yourself? Are you in the honors courses? Maybe the honors courses aren't for you. How are we fixing that as you progress through? And all of that gets to what I said before, which is, what is the outcome? Have we, through your entire educational experience, put you down the right path, right? Saw what it is that you were looking to do, hit on your talents, and nurture those?
Thank you. Ms. Wickens.
Thank you. So for me, the best criteria for evaluating educational programs, our curriculum, I guess you would say, is I don't want to focus too much on the older students because my two colleagues here have done that, but I want to talk about our younger kids, our kindergarten, our elementary students. So I believe the best way to evaluate it is, are we scaffolding information? Are we building on their skills from one year to the next to get them ready to that next level? Are we motivating them? Are they able to communicate with us? Because I think at the younger level, if they're able to communicate what they need more of, what they need help in, what they're interested in, what their talents are, I think that can evaluate, how do we integrate things that are motivating to them into the curriculum so that they are more engaged. Also, at that level, I'm going to stick with the younger kids, talking to the parents, giving out parent surveys to see how their kids are reacting to what they're learning in school. Is that going in the right directions? And even as you get older, like into 4th and 5th grades, can the students give us ideas on, how everyday math is doing? Is that a good curriculum for them? Does that get them ready for middle school? And just being able to share that information with us is a great way to check on the criteria and how we're doing.
Thank you. Ms. Watson.
I think the most important thing is to get feedback through workshops or focus groups or some kind of effort to get feedback from teachers on the ground and from parents. As a SPED committee co-chair, we're constantly struggling with this issue in terms of assessing our special education needs. And the best information comes from those who are teaching and the parents who see what their kids are receiving. I think that's essential to hear what they think about at what other districts and what private schools are doing and comparing what we're doing to them, maybe getting ideas about how we can improve things. And in that vein, I think it's important to rely on experts across the state, and maybe even out of state, who can kind of pinpoint maybe potential deficits in our programs or recommend ways to better them. I really do think experts are worth their value. So I think those are key ways to do that.
Thank you all. Our next question, several of you have already touched on, but I want to make sure everyone has a chance to address. Feel free to say, I think I already answered it if you wish. So the next question is, how would you address any need for special education improvements in our district? And we'll begin with Ms. Wiggins.
Sorry, you need to say it one more time. Sorry.
How would you address the needs for improvement in special education in our district?
Thank you. Need the mic. Okay. So far, there's always something to improve in any area. Special ed is a passion of mine, so that is very important to me. I think our district has done a great job already from where we started with Dr. Gonzalez, bringing special ed programs into the district that we didn't previously have. So right now we are planning on having 2 new classes in the middle schools, so that those students, they are really what's called self-contained class. They're very specialized classrooms, so that they can stay in district with their peers and with their neighborhood friends. The other thing that it also kind of ties to the referendum is the one question for building improvements is that they're going to expand special ed classrooms in each of the buildings, and also the case managers are going to be able to be housed in the district, in the schools. Right now, they're housed at the Board of Ed office, and as a case manager myself, I don't know how that's possible to get to know all of the students who case manage and what they need and what programs they need when you are not there with them every day. So I think that is going to be a great addition. In terms of programs, I think the teachers are the best ones to tell us what is working or not working in their classroom, what they need from us on the curriculum side in order to increase their student success.
Thank you. Ms. Sonic-Schmelz.
I think for this one, conversations for sure with teachers, parents, and as the children get older, we can even have conversations with the students. But feedback from the parents is, I find, very, very helpful. Anytime that special education is a very unique field in that every student has a different story. Well, everybody has a different story. But each child needs something different. And so each parent typically has something unique to offer that maybe you can hear from another parent. And so those conversations are really helpful when trying to shape the needs of different special education students. Like Mary, I'm really excited to get our case managers into the schools, and that's going to come with the passing of the referendum. If we can get that passed, because we'll get more space for small group instruction in offices. That's so important for our special education students, because they'll get to have a relationship with their case managers, and those case managers are the ones that are helping guide them through their course selections. But once again, just to sum up, definitely conversations with the teachers, the parents, and when it comes to our older students, our students for feedback.
Thank you. Ms. Watson.
I'm making a really long list right now. So I think a really important thing is training for our general education teachers on how to effectively deal with kids that are neurodiverse or otherwise have special needs. I think a lot of the time we see kind kind of kids relegated to, okay, they're just special needs. But, you know, if gen ed teachers had more tools at their disposal for teaching those kids as well, I think that would really help those kids be included more and help gen ed teachers with frustrations over, you know, certain kids that might be somewhere in the middle in their classrooms. I think it's important also to, when we bring in-district programs into our district, when we create new programs, to really think through how we can improve them, whether there are any gaps. For instance, I recently found out that many of the kids in some of our newer programs aren't receiving music education. You know, with the newer curriculum next year, I think that'll be addressed a little bit better, but I think it's still, you know, a really important issue to consider. You know, co-teaching classrooms in all of elementary schools, not just the upper grades, which is how, as I understand it, we currently have. Resource rooms for various subjects in middle school, not just math and language arts. My time is up, so I will stop there.
Thank you. Mr. Bonaccio.
Sure. I'm going to pick up also on the same thing. I think not every student is necessarily classifiable, right? So the more training we can give to our everyday teachers about recognizing some learning challenges that students may have, the better off our students are going to be. I hear a lot from parents that, you know, my student may have problems just with basic focus, with just some simple organization. And if we're training our teachers the right way, they'll be able to spot that sooner and work in the classroom to help those students, you know, with that level of functionality. And going along with that, the other thing I hear from parents a lot is seamless transitions from the different grade levels, right? When you move a student from an elementary to the intermediate level or intermediate to high school, there's often a breakdown in communication as far as, you know, is the plan that we have for the student, whether it's something more formal like an IEP or a 504, or just notes that a teacher has taken on a particular student. Is it following, right? Are the teachers that are in the next grades and the next building up understanding what's going on, right? Because you can't just have a student get comfortable at the elementary level, you know, 5 grades worth, and then all of a sudden you put them in a new school, a new place, and the help that they were getting is also not there. So I'll also add bringing students back in district helps significantly. That's part of our referendum. And finally, continued collaboration. The Special Ed Committee is one of the only, I think it may be the only committee we have that has direct access to our superintendent who handles all of our special needs students. We have to keep that up, and we have to keep that dialogue moving.
Thank you. Our last educational question is about a pretty specific policy, and I was not able to find out if it's actually a board level policy, so feel free to speak up if this is not appropriate. The questioner notes, currently Westfield High School allows only those students who take a particular AP class to sit for the corresponding AP test. Further, the schedule of AP classes students may enroll in is quite restrictive according to the questioner. Could you please share your thoughts on the policy? And we'll start with Mr. Bonaccio. I believe this is an inappropriate question. I don't know if it's a policy versus a regulation. Would anyone like to weigh in on this?
Sure.
Mr. Bonaccio.
Oh, good. I get to be first. That's fine. I actually don't believe that's a policy for us. It may be a regulation that we have, and that may be how things play out. But I don't know that that's actually necessarily policy here. I mean, look, as a general matter on APs, you know, our students are extremely successful when they take those exams. Our classes and the teachers who teach those exams are constantly going through professional development pretty much every summer to ensure that they're staying up to date on all the information that's there. But I don't really think that that's how it works with us. You know, certainly, you know, if a student has the ability, has the interest and the ability to take an AP test, you know, it's probably something we should look at if that's being applied.
So I'll do it in order.
You do the order.
You'll do the order? Okay.
So Ms. Watson, did you have anything to add? But feel free to say no.
I'm not familiar with whether it's a policy, but I do think it makes sense to allow kids to take AP tests regardless of what class they're in.
Ms. Ricketts.
Yeah,
the only thing I know just from my own children is that I know AP is run through the AP testing anyway. The kids take the AP classes, and then the kids sign up for and pay for the AP test, and it's listed literally on the College Board website when you register with that teacher. So I don't know if that is the issue. So you have to be in that teacher's class to be able to sign up for the AP exam. Like if students want to take outside courses and be able to take the AP exam, that I don't know if that can happen. That might be something that you need to look into on the College Board side, not necessarily the school side. The only other thing I know is, because I've had a friend do this, is they wanted to take an extra class in the summer to get ahead that wasn't offered by Westfield. And that was not, they were told that would not be transferred. So that is something that I know that it's not a policy, but it's just the way things are done in terms of credits in the high school. And that's something we can look into.
And Ms. Sonic-Schmaltz, anything to add?
Just to go back to question one and talk about the importance of the role of the board. So this is a great example of how we often get approached by community members with very specific questions that are definitely more administrative. We won't necessarily know the answer, but we absolutely will bring the question back to the administration and find out why exactly it's being run that way. They typically always have a very educated reason as to why they've made that choice. But as you've seen with this administration, if they do find that there's a hole in the system, they are not afraid of change. And so that's what's so beautiful about working as a team between the community and the board. We can bring things back, and there's constant conversation. So I think that's just a good example. But I don't think this is a policy. This seems more administrative to me, and we can definitely bring it back and find out what's going on. And then we can send the answer to the PTC. Look at that.
Thank you all. We'll now pivot to finances. And we'll start with Ms. Sonic-Schmaltz. The April 15th vote includes requests for increases in operating expenses, as well as two referenda which will impact taxes. How does the school board balance the need to provide a quality education with the need to respond to the local taxpayer burden?
We are blessed with one of the best VAs in the state. And so as a board and as an administration, we take our community's finances really seriously. We don't ask for more than we genuinely think that we need. And so, for example, for this particular situation, this year we have a huge referendum, right? So for our additional spending question, we're asking for the absolute bare minimum of what we need. We're maintaining what we currently have. So in that second question, we will have 2 elementary school positions, 1 intermediate school position, and their health benefits. And the additional spending. And that's it for our budget. We're maintaining what we currently have. And the reason is, that doesn't mean that there's not more things that we could do in the curriculum or more exciting things that we could add, but we understand that we are asking this community for a huge commitment to increase and to improve our facilities. And we really genuinely need that in order for our students to have the best opportunity and the safest and most appropriate learning environments. And so we're going to take into consideration that we need to prioritize all of our dreams.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Ms. Wickens.
So in terms of financing, it's not my forte. These guys all know that. But I did do it because I'm a taxpayer, so it's important to me to know everything about it. Kristen addressed the additional spending in terms of, keeping staff that we need in order to maintain what we currently have. And I know from listening to the Finance Committee, that's, mostly rising costs in in healthcare has issues to do with why we need additional spending. The bond questions, both of them were based on community input, a lot of community engagement, what the community wanted. The first one is to make improvements to our schools. I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to walk through some of our schools. They are severely outdated, and the buildings, to me, being as a teacher and working in a building every day, a school building, it's not a setting that staff or students should have to be in every day. It needs to be updated. And the kindergarten has been in the works for a long time. It would be a great benefit for our children, for our working families that need that when they have both parents working. And I just want to point out to you, because I know I'm almost done, is I was concerned about the tax impact on myself until they just put out the tax impact estimator on the website, and you can see exactly how much it's going to cost you, and that made me feel a lot better.
Thank you. Mr. Bonaccio.
I do like that. So, a couple of things. So, the school board is limited by a 2% cap on the amount of money it can raise year over year for its budget. We all know that nothing in the state goes up by 2%. And between just regular cost increases and state mandates that we have to follow, we are generally stuck with a situation where we have to make decisions. And we talk at our budget presentations, which I go to on a regular basis, about when did Westfield really hit that wall where we had to decide we had to think differently about budgeting, right? People say it was a couple of years ago, actually, our first year on the board, when we had to make some significant staff cuts. I think it was before then. I think it's when we stopped, when our funding was so capped that we stopped innovating. So what we did, first step was that, is to move our election and to April, which allowed us to go to the community and the taxpayers and say, okay, listen, these are the changes we need to make. These are the additions we need to make. You're going to vote them up or you're going to vote them down. Without that partnership, that tells us if we're on the right track or not. So we understand what the needs are, but we have to find a way to ensure the community understands it. Facilities planning, we had not had before we got on the board, or true short, long, and mid-range planning for facilities. We've instituted that to help, and that's why for our referendum, which we're utilizing for some of our larger facilities needs, we're taking advantage of actually getting money back from the state. A referendum is one of the only ways we can get debt service aid from the state. So our first question, which is a significant amount of infrastructure, talking about $188 million in that, is getting about $55 million in debt service back from the state. So it's smart budgeting, it's smart work.
Thank you. Ms. Watson.
I sat in on some of the public sessions where the district got input from the public on how to do this and what referendum should look like. And I looked up at the ceiling in this cafeteria, this high school cafeteria. Every time I come here, if I ever attend a Board of Ed meeting, all I see is this falling apart ceiling. And I asked Dr. Gonzalez, what about this ceiling? And the reality is, and what he told me is, if we pass this referendum, we can use our operating budget to fix things like the ceiling, to fix things like the sewage leak in the high school. If we don't, we'll have to use our operating budget over the next decades to try and improve somehow our facilities, right? Right now, if we pass this referendum, if we pass these bond questions, we get 57 million, I think, from the state, is what I heard. And without it, we don't, right? So what makes most sense for taxpayers? Do we get 57 million from the state to try and address these issues now in the next 3 years? These larger issues of bathrooms that need upgrades, HVAC that need upgrades, new classrooms, full-day kindergarten? Or do we wait for 30 years trying to put Band-Aids on all of these things and still continue to see this falling apart ceiling? I think the answer is pretty clear.
Thank you. And Ms. Watson, you can keep that. Could you please describe your own experience in working with large budgets?
With large budgets?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm an attorney by trade. I handle commercial transactions in the millions. I'm very familiar and well-equipped. I'm very familiar with reading very complex contracts and drafting, negotiating those contracts. I understand the ramifications of how to make sure certain terms and figures line up. Have I ever handled budgets like the Board of Ed? No, that's not really what I'm trained to do, but I'm certainly well equipped to learn how to handle such a budget. At home, I certainly handle a budget. So, I deal with enterprise customers, top customers that buy enterprise, technology from, my company. I think I do have the skills and the knowledge and the experience to manage a large budget.
Thank you. Mr. Bonaccio.
So I mentioned when we started that my professional experience is in commercial real estate and development, so large budgets are my thing. I work every day with clients who are working through projects that are hitting snags, that need to be cost controlled, with materials delays. How is that going to affect what the long-term progress is with legislation and with regulatory delays? How is that going to affect our long-term process? So large budgets don't scare me in any way, shape, or form. When I got elected to the board, one of the things that I was looking at was, how is this budget so big, right? We can't possibly be spending all this money and there isn't any place to cut, right? So the first thing I did is read through the thing, which if you ever are having trouble sleeping is an absolute help. It's like a phone book about this thick. And I came up with all these ideas saying, well, we gotta fix it. This seems ridiculous. This seems illogical, right? And then I went and met with our business administrator at the time, and I sat down and I said, okay, here we go. It's about to cut. And I got a nice education into what large budgeting is about, but what public entity budgeting is also about. So we talked a little bit about me spending time on this board. I live, eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, and I've learned more about public budgeting than probably anybody should ever want to learn. And it's one of the reasons I want to be back, because you've taken all this time for me to develop a significant level of expertise. My next goal in ensuring that we're budgeting the right way is to try to translate that for the public and make sure that the things that we've learned that have layers upon layers make sense for people who are used to handling domestic budgets. And for some of this stuff, it does not make much logical sense.
Thank you. Ms. Sonic Schmelz.
So I do not have a lot of experience with large budgets. I was a teacher before I was a mom. I do sit on 2 boards. I do sit on the Imagine board. I'm the vice chair of the Imagine board, and then I'm obviously on the Board of Education currently. So in both of those situations, Imagine's budget is much less than the district's budget, but both are large budgets. And in both cases, we have financial officers who are extremely adept in what they're doing. And so I am, because of my education from Westfield High School, and then obviously my continued math courses that I took at JMU, capable of following the budget, asking questions, educating questions, and I trust the answers that I am receiving from our leadership, because as I mentioned, Patty Ramos, who's our business administrator, is extremely well versed in this, and she came from Livingston and has a tremendous amount of experience, so I do trust her answers. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Wiggins.
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to also expand on Kristen's statement because also I'm a teacher and I'm not a math teacher. So finances are not my forte. But first of all, being on the board, we're not in charge of the finances. It's our job to be an oversight committee for how the finances are worked through and explained and detailed and carried out within the district. So for example, we have that finance and facilities committee that 4 of our members sit on. I'm not one of them, but we discuss everything that they have talked about during those committees. And as Kristen said, Patty Ramos, who's our business administrator, is very adept at breaking it down so that we are able to understand where the money is going, what it's needed for, what our priorities are, what do we have in case of an emergency, because we did have emergencies this year at the high school with the sewer breaking. Do we have that? And Dr. Gonzalez, even in my committee, which is PBG committee, if there's things like hirings, he can explain to me where the money will come from and how we're going to use it most efficiently and in the most important areas. So just want to make it clear that we don't take care of the finances. We oversee the finances, and it's all discussed with us.
Thank you. Our remaining questions deal more broadly with families and with student supports. And we'll start with Ms. Watson. Could you please describe your experience in working with parents and community members?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that?
Could you please describe your experience in working with parents and community members?
So, as I've said before, I am the co-chair of the Special Education Committee under the umbrella of the PTC. And before that, I was a member, a volunteer on the committee for many years. I've been co-chair now for, I think, my 5th year. And as part of my work there, I regularly liaise with administrators and leadership in the district and with parents of kids with special needs. I work to make sure that I build community and we build community and we express the needs of the parents of the kids to the administrators and that we suggest ideas for addressing those needs. Most recently, for instance, my co-chair and I had meetings with Dr. Weissman to raise concerns that our special ed reps at each school, came to us with regular meetings that we have, and to relay to the administration that here's XYZ issue, here are our suggestions of potential ways to address it. What is it that we'll communicate to parents about this, and how are we going to move forward on it? And so it's a back and forth, and we do our best to communicate these things back to the parents and to listen and have a continuing dialogue.
Thank you. Ms. Sonic Schmelz.
I have a lot of experience working with parents and community members. I would say that once I became a mom, my job became community service. That is what I do. It is my jam. So I started on the Washington PTO. I was the head of the playground and recess enhancement program. I started the food allergy awareness program at Washington with 3 other moms, and then we brought that district-wide. And so that actually goes from elementary all the way through high school. It's obviously most intense at the elementary level, but we do have programming all the way through. And then the community service night, that became a district-wide program. It started at Franklin. When they asked us to go district-wide, I was the one that chaired it at Washington, and now I'm currently chairing it at Roosevelt. I also am on the Imagine board, as I mentioned. It's a grief counseling facility in Mountainside, and I'm the vice chair. And then my family also has a family fund called the Matthew Thomas Torriello Memorial Fund in honor of my brother, who we lost to an opioid overdose. And we bring drug prevention programs to the schools.
Thank you. Mr. Bonaccio.
I guess I'll start outside the board first. So I spent, as I said earlier, 11 seasons as a softball coach, and parents certainly have a lot of opinions about where their kids ought to be playing and how much they should be playing and how successful they are where they are. So managing expectations there is key. I have to say in 11 years I was very, very lucky because I had 11 years of fantastic parents who didn't put me in too many of those difficult positions, and we always managed to work together. We started off by a preseason communication saying, look, these are the expectations for the team. This is how we want to work together as a group, rely on each other, right? Some kids have never even met each other before, right? Rely on each other for rides and things of that nature. And it sounds simple, but just from one simple sport, those skills translate to larger issues, right? I also sat on the town's Board of Adjustment. You can imagine that when the Board of Adjustment voted to approve things, everyone was happy. When they did not, let's just say I had some phone calls about a few things. Again, you have to learn how to manage all those things. On the board, I spend my time going out everywhere I can, especially since being elected as president. It's my job to get out there and have parents talk to me about things. We have a family friend, when we're hanging out with a group that I can see she's waiting, right? She waits and she always apologizes to me, and she says, she kind of sneaks a question in, and then she says, is it time? Can I talk about it yet? And we're just off and running for like an hour and change. And she kind of feels bad, but she shouldn't, because that's what I ran for. It's my job to talk to her. It's my job to answer those questions.
Thank you. And Ms. Wiggins.
Okay, I'm going to start with my outside job as a case manager for special needs students. Every single day is communication with parents. So in those 10 years, I have learned to create relationships with families, even when we're on opposite sides of what we believe. Building rapport with those parents, building rapport with their children, and also being honest. I think those are very important ways to address both parents and community members. In the community over the years, I was also active with Rob in the girls softball league. I coached, so again, coaching and working with the parents and their children. And also I was on the board of the softball league. So getting the word out there, engaging with the community on how we can better the programs, and offering more programs for them. In addition, within the Westfield community, before I became a board member, I also advocated as a second job for special needs students that needed help with IEP meetings and being able to speak to their teachers and what's the best programs for them. And in addition, tutoring students in Westfield and working with their parents. And here, I've gained so much experience here with the community, engaging with them just based on the public portion of the board meetings. So that's been a real eye-opener.
Thank you all. And we have time for one last question. And we will start with Ms. Wiggins again. Could you please share your thoughts about how the board should address student mental health?
Again, I just want to reiterate that the board doesn't have direct access into how to deal with student mental health. So we oversee what the superintendent and the administrators and the teachers bring to us in terms of ideas, and we are able to add to those ideas and discussions. As Kristen was mentioning, our district goals, Dr. Gonzalez was able to bring in, which we needed very much so, especially after COVID, more counselors into the schools, more student assistant counselors. Student assistant counselors, if you don't know, help deal with crises within the school buildings. If the student is feeling overwhelmed, if the student is thinking of harming themselves, so those are the people that are there. We also have people that we've brought into district to do workshops on mental health, to train our teachers on being more aware of mental health. And there's also workshops offered to parents on mental health and what services are out there, like Perform Care, which help families in New Jersey dealing with any issues that they need. So I think the training and the staff and The curriculums that we have embedded into our education have been really helpful for these students coming out of, I know it's been 5 years, but it's still affecting them today.
Thank you. Ms. Watson?
I think I would echo a lot of what Ms. Wiggins said in terms of educating parents and educating teachers and educating students. I think it's important to support programs and foster programs that help parents spot the signs of mental health issues and help parents deal with them. And I think also it's very important that we make our schools feel safe for children. My kids went to McKinley, and the principal there at the time, every time that there was a lockdown drill, the next day he would have a pajama day, because he wanted to encourage that the kids feel like school is still a safe place despite all this craziness going on in our world. And I think that's an important thing to foster in our schools and to encourage our principals to do, not just a pajama day, but any other way to make students feel like, hey, within these walls you really are safe. I think that really impacts kids' mental health as well. I see my time is nearly up, so I've moved this along.
Thank you. Ms. Sonic Schmelz?
I would say the best way for the board to address student mental health is to have a really tight relationship with our administration and to support their recommendations because they are the experts. So in this case, it would be the director of guidance who would make a recommendation to our assistant superintendent of curriculum, and then he would make the recommendation to the board. And by supporting those recommendations, we are supporting our students' mental health. An example of that would be bringing MTSS, multi-tiered student support systems, to Westfield, which we have brought to Westfield. And by doing that, that's basically providing tier 1 support, which means we're addressing all general needs of students, and then tier 2 is one small group, and then tier 3 is very specific, sometimes one-on-one work with a SAC, a student assistance counselor. So specific to mental health, tier 1, we've increased the number of counselors at our elementary schools, and we've increased our SACs. And then they're able to do small group work with our students, and also the one-on-one. And then most importantly, listen to our families, and anything that our families tell us, make sure that we bring it back as a board member to our committees, and make sure that we're addressing those with our administration.
Thank you. And Mr. Bonaccio?
So tell me if you've heard this before. My daughter tells me, you don't get it. You don't understand what it's like. Right? You had struggles when you were growing up, but it's nothing like me, right? Nothing like what we're seeing. She's right. She's absolutely right. The students that we have nowadays, our kids, are in a social media world where anything they do is potentially viral in seconds. They've been through a pandemic. I think I can't believe it's this far, and then the first person is the P word. Thank goodness for that, right? Where students who would be developing socialization skills, right? Our kindergartners and first graders didn't have those experiences, those in-class experiences. So how far behind, were they? Not just in grades. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just that social and social emotional development. I mentioned earlier that the board, our first year, had to do a lot of cuts. The second year, we came back with not just, bringing some of these things back, but also with a pretty significant budget ask of the public for an increase. And that increase went to counseling. And that went for a very, very good reason to do that. What we've been able to do, and we should be doing as a board, is supporting the growth of those programs at the high school, at the intermediate level, and absolutely at the elementary level. We need to build a base and a tiered system of support for our students so that they know no matter what grade level they're at, they have our backing. Teacher training in this area is also very, very important. Working with our teachers and having them learn from our counselors how to spot problems when they see them in their classrooms.
Thank you all. We'll now turn to closing statements. We did draw for this order at the beginning. So we'll begin with Mr. Bonaccio. Each candidate has 2 minutes.
So I am not the most patient person, as members of the district will attest to. When I first got on the board, I spotted a number of things that were that weren't moving as fast as they could. And a lot of that was due to some of our finances. A lot of it was due to some of the outside factors that we had. We are lucky to have a superintendent, and we are lucky that over the past few years we have elected a board that, despite whatever differences, as has been said before, we may have, ultimately comes together constantly to focus on what's best for the district. And that has led to some growth in our district at a faster pace than I couldn't possibly have imagined. Me nagging his help, for sure. One of the reasons I want to be back on the board is to continue that. It's my job to be an advocate. It's my job to speak, toward what we're seeing from the public. And it's my job to continue to take these things, to take the innovation that we have from among our staff. We have an incredibly thoughtful and creative group of people who had been held back for way too long by budget constraints and other limitations. So the fact that we as a board have been able to come together and sort of reset our curriculum programs to get intelligent budgeting squared away, not that we hadn't been doing it before, but we've had to get more creative, right? We're bringing some services back into the district, and some things we haven't even talked about. Bringing services back into the district to help cut costs. And we bought 2 school buses, right? Our transportation costs are going up 6%, now they went up 1 this year. We're talking about more shared services with the town. Stay tuned for our March 25th meeting, you'll see some progress there, and some much more legislative advocacy. I'm here because I want to be here. Kristen said, her jam was, this is mine. It's my job to stay on this board. It's my job to be here for the students. And it's my job, just going back from where I started, to take care of all the kids in this district, my kids and yours.
Thank you. Ms. Wickens.
Thank you. Thanks again, everybody, for coming. I know it's been a long time. But I just want to end with saying how much I enjoyed being on the board, how much support I've gotten being on the board, being elected the first time. It's certainly been an education coming from the teacher point of view to the Board of Ed point of view. It takes a lot of learning, it takes a lot of communication, it takes a lot of time out of your day to be on the board, and I've loved every minute of it because we have achieved so much in the 3 years. As Rob and Kristen have said before, looking back at the strategic plan, I just looked back at it again today, of all the things we've accomplished in the past 3 years that Dr. Gonzalez had set out for us in the beginning is amazing. I'm looking forward, as Rob said, to continuing that. I think with everything, all of the new changes that are going on between the referendum, between, things that may or may not happen at the federal Department of Education level, any changes that might happen which could affect our funding, which could affect our special education programs. I really feel that it's crucial for us as a Board of Ed to have the continuity and the understanding and the knowledge that can be provided from those of us that have experience, like myself and Kristen and Rob. We're a group of people with varying opinions on the board and experiences, and I believe that's how we were able to come together and make such a difference in the short amount of time that we have had. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Watson.
I used my introduction to introduce myself on a basic level, but I thought in conclusion, I'd let you know some of the things that matter to me that I would like to work on and see followed through on, particularly in today's climate with the Department of Education under attack. I want to ensure that our special needs programs and our harassment, intimidation, bullying policies and practices remain robust and effective. And I want to bridge the gap between gen ed and special ed to ensure that all kids are included and given opportunities. I'll work toward ensuring that our policies for instance, our harassment, intimidation, bullying policies continue to make sense and are up to date and are being enforced appropriately and consistently. And I want to make clear that one of my core values is that hate has no place in our schools. As someone who's been on the receiving end of anti-Semitism as a mom of a special needs kid, I want to make sure that we foster programs and policies that teach our kids to be kind and respectful and accepting of each other across races, ethnicities, religions, sexes, neurodiversities, everything. And I also another thing that is really important to me is making sure that with the facilities improvements, we continue to move forward in our facilities improvements, and we do it in an efficient, effective, and fiscally responsible manner. Whether or not the referendum passes, and I encourage everyone to vote yes, we'll need to think of creative and effective ways we can use districts' existing real estate assets, potentially. For instance, Lincoln School, the Elm Street building, in ways that might make sense and tap grants, things like that. I see I'm out of time, so thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. And last word goes to Ms. Sonic Schmaltz.
Thank you to Rob, Mary, and Violetta for engaging in this meaningful conversation about the major issues that are facing our district. Thank you to the PTC and the League of Women Voters for hosting us, and thank you to our community members for submitting such thoughtful questions. I also would like to thank my family for their support and encouragement. Helping students reach their fullest potential is my passion. Every student has different strengths and weaknesses, as do our teachers and administrators. Each comes to the classroom with a unique set of experiences, values, and interests. Such diversity adds rich culture to a classroom. If re-elected, I will continue to support the administration in fostering the development of inclusive and safe learning environments by being an active listener and researcher, gathering as much information as I can from all stakeholders in an effort to make informed decisions for the betterment of all students. The main reason I am rerunning, much like Rob and Mary, is because I am very proud of the positive change that we have been able to make in Westfield over the last 3 years. And I want to see the district's 5-year strategic plan through. I thank you for the opportunity to have served the Westfield schools over the last 3 years, and I look forward to continuing that commitment if re-elected. I also want to thank everyone who attended tonight's event and for coming out to support Westfield and the Westfield schools. Please remember to vote on April 15th. Thank you and good night.
Thank you all. And audience, would you please join me in offering a huge thank you to the candidates tonight. And thank you to all of you in the audience for wanting to be informed voters. This forum has been recorded and will be posted on the district website. Please remember that the recording can be shared only in its entirety. Use of any excerpts is not permitted. I now return the podium to Ms. Gary, who will wrap up her evening.
Thank you all for participating this evening. Your input was very valuable and much appreciated. I'd like to thank everyone again for being here tonight. The public will be able to vote on the school board, school district's annual budget, and bond referendum on April 15th. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Your polling location will be included on sample ballots mailed by the county to every registered voter about a week before the vote. Because the voting will take place during Westfield's spring break, officials are encouraging voters to request mail-in ballots. Applications can be printed online or obtained from the Union County Clerk's office at the Fraser Building located at 300 North Avenue East in Westfield, and the Union County Courthouse at 2 Broad Street, room 113 Elizabeth. You can also complete a form online through Union County and an application will be mailed to you. Ballots will be sent by the county to residents during the first week of April. The deadline to request a vote by mail-in ballot is April 8th. Mail-in ballots must be postmarked or dropped in a designated drop box by April 15th. In Westfield, there's a designated drop box at the Fraser Building, again located at 300 North Avenue East. Mail-in ballots cannot be brought to an in-person poll. Walk-ins will also be able to submit an application for mail-in ballots and cast their votes in one visit to the county clerk until 3 p.m. on April 14th. The county clerk has a satellite office again at 300 North Avenue East. Again, thank you all for your participation and wishing you all a wonderful evening.